You're watching the History Fella channel. In this video, we're looking at Charles de Gaulle. Charles Andre Joseph Marie de Gaulle was born on 22nd of November 1890 and would die on the 9th of November 1970. Commonly known in France as Le Général de Gaulle, or simply as Le Général, de Gaulle was a French army officer and statesman who led Free France against Nazi Germany in World War II and chaired the provisional government of the French Republic from 1944 to 1946 in order to restore democracy in France. In 1958 he came out of retirement when appointed President of the Council of Ministers by President René Coutet. He rewrote the Constitution of France and founded the Fifth Republic after approval by referendum. He was elected President of France later that year, a position to which he was re-elected in 1965 and held until his resignation in 1969. Born in Lille, he graduated from Saint-Cyr in 1912. He was a decorated officer of the First World War, wounded several times and later taken prisoner by the Germans at Verdun. During the interwar period, he advocated mobile armoured divisions. During the German invasion of May 1940, he led an armoured division which counterattacked the invaders. He was then appointed under the Secretary for War. Refusing to accept his government's armistice with Germany, de Gaulle fled to England and exhorted the French to resist occupation and to continue the fight in his appeal of 18th of June. He led the Free French forces and later headed the French National Liberation Committee against the Axis. Despite frosty relations with the United States, he generally had Winston Churchill's support and emerged as the undisputed leader of the Free France. He became head of the Provisional Government of the French Republic in June 1944, the interim government of France following its liberation. As early as 1944, de Gaulle introduced an economic policy which included substantial state-directed control over a capitalist economy, which was then followed by 30 years of unprecedented growth, known as Trente Glorieuses. Frustrated by the return of petty partisanship in the new Fourth Republic, he resigned in early 1946, but continued to be politically active as founder of the Rally of the French People, or the RPF. He retired in the early 1950s and wrote his war memoirs, which quickly became a staple of modern French literature. When the Algerian War was ripping apart the unstable Fourth Republic, the National Assembly brought him back to power during the May 1958 crisis. He founded the Fifth Republic with a strong presidency, and he was elected to continue in that role. He managed to keep France together while taking steps to end the war, much to the anger of ethnic French born in Algeria and the armed forces also. But previously, these had supported his return to power to maintain colonial rule. He granted independence to Algeria and acted progressively towards other French colonies in the context of the Cold War. De Gaulle initiated his politics of grandeur, asserting that France, as a major power, should not rely on other countries, such as the United States, for its national security and prosperity. To this end, he pursued the policy of national independence, which led him to withdraw from NATO's integrated military command and to launch an independent nuclear strike force that made France the world's fourth nuclear power. He restored cordial Franco-German relations to create a European counterweight between the Anglo-American and Soviet spheres of influence through the signing of the Elysee Treaty on the 22nd of January 1963. De Gaulle opposed any development of a supranational Europe, favouring Europe as a continent of sovereign nations. De Gaulle openly criticised the United States' intervention in Vietnam and the exorbitant privilege of the United States dollar. In his later years, his support for the slogan Vive le Québec libre and his 2 vetoes of Britain's entry into the European Economic Community generated considerable controversy in both North America and Europe. Although re-elected to the presidency in 1965, he faced widespread protests by students and workers in May 1968, but had the army's support and won the election with an increased majority in the National Assembly. De Gaulle resigned in 1969 after losing a referendum in which he proposed more decentralization. He died a year later at the age of 79, leaving his presidential memoirs unfinished. Many French political parties and leaders claim a Gaullist legacy, that is, having a political ideology similar to Charles de Gaulle. Many streets and monuments in France were dedicated to his memory after his death.